So last week, I talked about a Chinese investor that wanted to invest $40 million into an American blockbuster film. In this video, I'm going to talk about how Ryan and I came up with the $40 million script. We're going to do this podcast style, so grab some popcorn and enjoy our conversation. All right, so Ryan, thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me today, reminisce about the good old days when we were struggling artists. We met kind of in lieu of the YouTube channel where, my dad had just went viral, as I talked about in the previous video. And we didn't know how to write funny episodes. I'm more a director, he's more of an actor. And we were kind of missing that third aspect of the Holy Trinity, which is like writing the content. And you were like, yo, can I take a crack at it? Tell me a little bit about kind of the early videos we were working on and kind of your entrance into working together.
Well, this wouldn't be an interaction with us if I didn't have to correct you a little bit. Okay. So,
It's a microaggression, right?
I know. It's just how we work. It's how we work together. Really, what happened from my perspective was that you and your dad were all of a sudden doing YouTube stuff. And I was a huge YouTube fan. I loved YouTube. I watched YouTube all the time. I had all these people I followed on YouTube and had a pretty good understanding of the platform and what was popular at the time. And so when I saw that you and your dad were doing stuff, if you recall, you invited me to come over and be an extra in one of the early videos, right? And you're like, you don't have to do anything. You don't say anything. Just wear this stupid mask. I've got you. And, let my dad kill you on camera. I'm like, awesome. Which is like the very first death drop, by the way. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I get to die in a YouTube video. Let's go. You guys were at like 150,000 subscribers at the time because, it was like overnight, but it was exciting. And I remember specifically, we're sitting there in one of those early videos, and like I had this idea for a shot with the mask, and I was your dad's pool, and I was like, what if we, threw the mask in the water, and like as the mask sunk, that could be like a dramatic effect on it, right? And you liked the idea, and you filmed it, and you made it look cool, and that for me just sparked something. Like, I have an idea, PJ films it and makes it look cool. Pete acts in it and, makes it funny. And that just kicked everything off. At the time I was working at a mental health hospital doing intake evaluations, and it was brutal. Like, I don't know what to tell you, like every day I'm interviewing 5, 6, 7 people, from children all the way to like adults. They're victims of horrendous crimes and trauma. And I have to sit there and listen to their stories over and over again and hear what it is that's making them crazy or making them want to harm themselves. The hospital itself was one of those Medicaid-funded facilities with really bad paint, no furniture. There was bed bugs that kept getting infested and they couldn't get rid of them. It was just horrible. And, I hated that there. And, here comes my friend. I had known you casually. We had done a couple things together before that, but there's all of a sudden this opportunity for me to pour in some creativity and escape from the trauma of that place. And from that moment on, with that mask slipping under the water, we were off to the races. Just I don't know where I got the confidence to tell you you're wrong, but I must have told you you're wrong like 100 times when we're making these videos. And like, here you are, like, National Geographic photographer, this huge, like background and film and documentaries and making cool stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not right. And you're like,
okay. Yeah, you were like a really natural director, like from the start. Cause I definitely, like, that was my background, like directing for 10 years. But I think because you approach like things from the perspective of like writing and more in the comedy vein, which was not my wheel set, you just had such like bizarre point of view for everything we were doing. It was funny, man. It was awesome.
I think my favorite video, and it's probably the stupidest video we made, it was when Pete read the bedtime story. That was so funny.
So the Logan Paul is the
I show this video to people, and they look at me like, "What is wrong with this? Like, who made this and why?" And I'm like, "It's brilliant. It's golden." It's not, but it was so funny. It's the worst edit you've ever done, PJ. Of like,
because I have no like graphical capabilities.
we're just like punching up. Like anyone that's like above us in status in YouTube, it's like, oh, Rice Gum, punch. Jake Paul, punch. Like no one gives a crap who we are or what we say about them. But like, let's earn some internet points by talking trash about people who like don't even know we exist.
They always say it in like anyone's creative journey, you just have to like get your reps in. And that's where I think we just got in so many reps for YouTube, is just like doing a ton of bad ideas, doing a ton of funny ideas, seeing what stuck. And in the end, I think we found a bit of our voice collaborating together through that process. And we never would have thought then that we'd be doing this now. So it's been crazy, man.
Yeah. And for me, like, working with you and your dad on the YouTube channel unlocked certain things that I didn't really realize that like I had a passion for, right? Like never before in my life did I ever think script writing, that's what I want to do. I want to write scripts and, write things that people film. In my head, I always wanted to be a writer. I wrote poetry and short fiction and took a couple stabs at longer forms, but, failed to follow through with that, like so many other people before me. But the idea of writing a script and then somebody performing that script and being part of a team of making something creative, it hadn't crossed my mind until we started working together. And it was addictive. I got to write something, and then I got to watch that thing come to life with you and your dad. And
you didn't have to do any of the labor.
I really
just give us notes. We'd work for like 50 hours and he'd be like, "Now this is dog crap. Like, take it back."
How many times would you like send me a completed video? You're like, "I'm uploading this in 20 minutes." And I watch it and I'm like, let's not do any of this and do this other thing instead.
It would turn out a lot better. And that's just the creative process, is you need to be able to like rapidly iterate. It'll be nice with you being on set in the future.
Yeah,
and
hopefully if I can fly across the pond to join you guys, it's a little bit challenging here in Japan, but we'll talk more about that in another episode. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you were talking in the last video about this Battle Island script, which was the initial title of the script that we were going with, right? And you were talking about how you had this investor that you were talking to. This is actually like a year later after we left the YouTube channel, when this all started happening.
It was like basically YouTube channel in 2019, and then the pandemic hit in 2020. And then we stopped, when the pandemic hit, we kind of quit the channel, and my dad just did it by himself. And we had all this time off. There was like a couple months where we were just working on other film concepts and other things. And like Battle Island didn't come out until the Chinese investor guy.
Yeah. So time had moved on, right? That's kind of the point I want to make, because we were working in the YouTube space. You had to leave YouTube. It was not financially viable for you, right? Like your dad couldn't pay you.
My marriage wouldn't survive it, but yeah.
And like I tried working for your dad, writing scripts for him, but like without you to like film it, like it just didn't feel right. Like we're a team. It just
100%.
I couldn't hack it with just Pete alone. And I had left the mental health hospital. You had left YouTube and went working commercial for a while. And I'm now at a cancer hospital. I thought that would be, less traumatic, right? Instead of all my patients having incredible trauma, now they all just die from cancer that they can't like beat. That was fun. So my soul was just like in the mortar and pestle of life at the time. But yeah, we started talking about all kinds of story ideas. What were some of the craziest ones?
Well,
I
I don't spoil the YouTuber thing because I want to do that one day and someone to like snatch it.
Oh yeah, no, we won't talk about. There's a couple of golden ideas, but I think my favorite idea is
Okay.
the mole people, right? Like
If you
that's
say it like that, it sounds like the lamest idea ever.
I know, but like, oh man, I'm gonna paint it really badly because it's actually a really good story idea. But like, it's these people who are like trapped underground and live underground their whole lives, and like in my head, I just call them the mole people, right? But it's like this really beautiful story, but
No, when it was like a dystopian Mary and Joseph story, and Joseph was like
yeah,
engine Con Air.
yeah, like there's no stories are new stories, right? So we're just like, let's tell the oldest stories we can think of, and um, make something interesting. But that was all creative, just fun. I never really at the time thought that those stories were building into anything, right? It's just ideas that we were generating, kind of in the think tank for quite a while. I was off at the cancer center and trying not to, fall into the deepest depression you can imagine, right? And you're doing PJ business stuff, trying to think of ideas that could potentially get made into a film or a TV series. I remember when you brought to me the Battle Island script idea, and you're like, all right, guys, we're making Battle Royale, the movie, and insert whatever title you think might fit there. Can't say it for legal reasons, but
Oh, like an unnamed prominent IP
unnamed
in the
IP, the movie.
the movie.
And I'm like, dude, don't you need to talk to them first? He's like, no. We're gonna get them to say yes after we make it. And I'm like, no, it's fucking crazy.
Ironically, like I totally got a response. Like I ended up later sending it. I was like, "Hey, blank company, here's my script idea for like your movie," and they're like, "Please stop emailing us." Like, I got this. I got the like C-suite executive to be like, "You've emailed every single creative director at this company. We don't want to do this. Please stop."
That's so funny. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh my gosh. But like, I just remember like it was a different approach to filmmaking, right? Like you were like, I want to make something that is relatable to a wider audience, something that investors can get behind, something that feels familiar. So you just kind of came at this project with like, I want a movie that meets these boxes, right?
Right, because this inciting event wasn't like, "Hey, PJ, what's like the coolest art house film we could shoot on the weekends?" The inciting event was something I referenced in the last video where I had this. I have a friends with a lot of cool lawyer people, and people are like super connected globally. And so one of the guys was like, "Dude, I got a Chinese investor who needs to write off $40 million. He says like it was this crazy tax credit program that the Chinese government was doing, but like it seemed like, okay, that actually makes sense. Like the government will reimburse him. He needs to spend $40 million though on an American film that's part of the tax credit incentive." So I was like, all right, I'm in. So I need a blockbuster script. I can't shoot like, a haunted horror indie film like all filmmakers start with as their first movie. This needs to be something that actually can fit this budget. So then I was like, all right, well, everyone's playing battle royale games right now. Like if we're wanting to make a mass market kind of story, I think a battle royale story would be great. We were really inspired by Ready Player One, Hunger Games, like Jurassic Park. The story's a lot different than it is now. And obviously it's if it's Christopher Nolan now, it was Michael Bay then.
Yeah. You've always been a fan of Michael Bay. I'm the snob of the group, right? Like I watch fun movies with my family and I like hate tweet it. Meanwhile, my kids are like, "That's the best movie I've ever seen," and I'm like, why? I just can't appreciate fun things anymore, I guess. But yeah, it was really interesting. You came to me with all these ideas and like, I wasn't feeling it, right? Like, I was like, PJ, this sounds interesting. I don't know how I feel about all this. That's not really my type of movie I want to make. Um, and, I was really busy doing the cancer research at the time. That job was extremely difficult and I was failing at it. So, um, you know, having all this pressure of knowing like the fates of my patients are in my hands as the trial coordinator for these clinical trials. Um, I didn't have the motivation. It wasn't there. It's kind of a lull for me in the motivation department. And I remember you started coming to me with these ideas, and I would call you on my break. You had this urgency, like, no, it's got to be me. It's got to be me. It's got to be me. We got to do it. And I don't know how many times like you came to me with like a potential outline. You would like write an outline, send it to me, and I would like shred it. You know, I'm like, no, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is okay. Um, it's kind of like how we worked in the YouTube space, right? Like, you send me something and I kind of pass it back to you, try to clean it up and give it back to you. But I remember there was this one day when it was probably like the fourth or fifth version of this outline. And you're talking to me like, oh, we got to write it. We got to write it. And I just said like, PJ, I'm maxed out. I can't give you any more time than what I give you on the daily. Right. And honestly, you can come to me 100 more times and I'm going to pass it back to you saying it needs fixed, it needs fixed, it needs fixed. Like, you just need to write the thing, get it out, write it down. We can fix whatever problems it had later, but like, you're going to have to kind of take a swing at this on your own. Which I think was scary for me because, I was riding your coattails the whole time and I'm like, I'm going to let him go swing.
Right, because you're the writer between us. Like, yeah, that was a weird dynamic where like the whole time I'm like, I'm not the one to write this. I'm like the big picture idea guy, director, more producer. But it just, you had no capacity to do it, but I knew it needed to get done. And so, and I had the time, I just had the time. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to suck it up. I'm going to swallow imposter syndrome. I'm going to like understand this is probably not going to be good in the end, or we may never see anything like it. Ironically, like the plot is totally different, but all the characters are different, but all the character names and sort of the archetypes they fill in the role in the story, like they're pretty similar.
Yeah. There's a lot there that, is the same. There's so many pieces of that original script idea that stayed. And I think, some of those changes are the product of changing from a live action format to an animated format. We'll talk about that in future episodes, right? Other bits of that are, like this was a rush job, right? Like who can write a script in 2 months from outline to like finished script and it'd be good? No one can. Like, it's just not possible. Right. You had like a week to go to meet your deadline. And I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, because the time crunch was like not, I think it was like October, August when we started writing it. And I knew in order to actually get this to attach producers, and then sort of get everything in line to where we could like, if someone sends us $40 million, we have to actually spend it that year in order to have that as like a tax liability. So like there was just like a insane amount of stuff we would have had to do before the end of the year. So I just knew like, okay, we outlined for like 6 weeks, and then I wrote it in like 2 weeks, doing like 14-hour days for like 2 weeks straight. And I don't know why I thought that was like you can rush a $40 million movie, but fortune favors the bold. I was just like, we'll write it, we'll rewrite it as we're shooting it, or some like ludicrous like, which is like the irony of this whole thing is like, I'm sure this has been done before in big budget blockbusters when the writer strike was going, and they're just like rewriting on set like the whole freaking film. Like, God, never.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you were like, if we just get the money, we can hire the writer to come in and clean it up. Yep. Like we gotta get the money first, and then we can pay someone to like make it actually good. And because I remember, you had that script and I read it, and it was interesting. Like, I I'm a really harsh critic when it comes to like, giving feedback. Um, and there was, I think, some character depth issues that I wasn't really feeling. Um, I felt like they were a little on the flat side, some of them. And I felt like there was a little bit too much exposition, and there was, some grammar errors because you wrote it so fast. And, um, but like all in all, it was an interesting story. Like I liked it. It wasn't something that inspired me and made me really passionate that I wanted to um, dig my hands in there and fix it and make it better. And that's the ironic thing, right? Like at this point, you were like hoping I would come in and just do what I do and clean it up. But I was still at that hospital. I still didn't have the time or the energy to invest in the painstaking process of a full length 120-page revision. Um, and revision takes a lot. It would take me months to revise, and I didn't want to do it. I was being really stubborn at the time. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. It's like the reluctant hero, right? Like I know I'm not that a big deal or anything.
No, you're the hero of your own story. This is that stage where you're like, no.
I was like, the call to action was to rewrite the script, and I'm like, no, I refuse. I want to live my life as a farmer or whatever. I remember you like, don't you want more out of your life? You hate your job. Like, I'm like, don't give me pep talks. Go back to your business retreats. I don't need this crap from you. I hate everything. I'm okay with that.
Dude. Yeah,
those are real conversations we had.
Oh, I know. We both were struggling, man. Like the mental hospital was terrible on your marriage. The cancer center was terrible on your marriage. YouTube channel was really hard on my marriage because we're working crazy hours and I'm never home. Commercial directing, like, I don't know. It's just like, I think those honestly were the hardest years of definitely my life, probably your life too. So
yeah, no, it was challenging. It was hard. And to look back at all that and realize that we wouldn't be where we are today without any of it. It's kind of ironic, right? There's like all these cliches about like, I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be where I am today without those experiences. But like, yeah, I mean, it's cringy, and you see them on like people's Facebook posts who keep making bad decisions, right? But at the same time, like, I wouldn't have the level of life experience to bring to my characters if I hadn't had the opportunity to look death in the face every day of my life, or look despair in the face every day of my life. I grew up privileged, not in like a financial way, but in a sheltered kind of way. My parents didn't really have any marriage problems, and they loved me, and I went to decent schools growing up. For the most part, life, all the hardships of life were something other people experienced. It wasn't until I had those real world experiences through the mental health hospital and through the cancer hospital that I would say like my soul matured in those times. And I think that's the kind of the truth, right? With nature, you see this everywhere. Wherever the harshest environments are, you see the greatest biodiversity, right? When resources are scarce, life finds a way, right? That famous quote. And I think that's true for us. We were in that place of scarcity. There was only one way forward. It was make this script. Like, I don't think we would have been there. We would be here today if we didn't have all that pressure. We'd still be kicking ideas back and forth. And that's a shame because I'm really excited about what we're about to bring to the world. But yeah,
there's honestly a part of me that's definitely like kind of afraid sometimes to share just how like, dude, we were just making shit up then. Some days I feel like we're still making shit up, like
Mhm.
it's not like we're some, I don't know, just like we know the right way. And especially I'm the CEO of this entertainment company. Like I'm paralyzed by fear a lot of days. And I think
Oh my
how
gosh, you're right.
yeah. But I think the crazy part of our journey is that like any good story, we talk about like it's the hero's journey all the way through. It's about the team having the expertise, not about you always having the expertise. Or it's just, making the best of these, like almost like the unseen hand of like the narrator just kind of like shape you through, and you're just on this roller coaster ride, right? White knuckling, trying. And yeah, I just honestly, man, I'm really grateful. I try not to have like any sense of arrogance ever in any face of success, because it's just like all things in life are through hard work and a ton of luck.
Yeah, like I used to say every day of my life, there is no such thing as luck. There is only the intersection of
Of
preparation
preparation
and
meets
opportunity.
opportunity. Yeah.
And I've said this to you many times, right?
Yeah.
But like where we are now, I'm like, no. There is the intersection of preparation and opportunity, and then there is this thing that we're doing right
Deus ex
now. And
machina.
it's like the fates have aligned, the planets are in like whatever that's called, and they all line up, right? Whatever the heck is going on with this story.
Yeah.
But you said something, PJ, and I just want to highlight for the world when they see this. I know only a small audience sees this at first, but if people are going to be watching this years later when they're trying to figure out how did they get this magic happen and where did all this beautiful storytelling come from. Um, the one thing about you that's always made you an impeccable leader and someone that I've been willing to get behind and support, because a lot of times I've been in the support role in our friendship and our professional lives. Um, the reason why I'm so willing to support you is because you know where your weaknesses are. You know all the ways in which you don't know. And like there's this other cliche that people say all the time is you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think one of your superpowers is that you actually do know what you don't know. You know the areas of ignorance that a lot of us are blind to. We live our lives and there's all these areas that we're ignorant to, right? But for you, like you have an awareness of where you need leadership and mentorship. You go out and you get it. You've invested so many thousands of your own dollars to get that leadership mentorship. And I think that willingness to be mentored and to find people who will invest in you and help you along the way, that leads us directly to next week's episode, where all of this turns around. It goes from, two bros who are just making YouTube videos and have dumb ideas to like, how do we get from where we are to where we are now, or where we were to where we are now? Well, there's two people that we have to meet, right? And you guys have already seen them in some of the Discord chats and other videos, behind the scenes stuff. But next week we could talk about Michael and Katie and how they came along and took all of our raw uranium and refined it into this, like, amazing reactor of creativity that is goes to ruin these days. So I'm excited about their take on everything.
That is a really good segue for next week's episode, Ryan. Thank you so much for appearing on this with me, man. It's just always fun to reminisce and stuff. So I can't wait till we do another one of these, dude.
Yeah. Thanks again. And when you come into Japan,
Dude, soon.
Huge fan. It's been a year. All right. Gala community, love you guys.
So some of you may be wondering, PJ, what about the Chinese investor? He left us hanging at the last episode. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to wait until next week, because we answer that in the next episode. Michael and Katie will be joining us, and they'll be talking about how they came on board, how he packaged the project, and what led us with talking with one of Tom Cruise's producers and the writer of Jurassic World. You're not going to want to miss next week's episode.